Jake Martinez sat in his chair and looked around the huge council room. He had been coming to this place for 12 years. 12 long years of listening to aliens talk down to humans like they were stupid children. The room was full of strange creatures from across the galaxy. Some had tentacles. Some had multiple eyes. Some looked like walking trees. But they all had one thing in common. They all thought humans were beneath them. The Galactic Council met on a giant space station called Nexus Station. It floated in empty space between star systems. The station was older than human civilization. The aliens built it thousands of years ago. They liked to remind humans of this fact every chance they got. Jake watched as High Counselor Zethka stood up to speak. Zethka was a Valkyrian. His people looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. They had ruled a huge empire for over 5,000 years. Zethka thought this made him better than everyone else. The human request for mining rights is foolish, Zethka said in his hissing voice. They are still the newest saplings in the garden of civilization. They do not understand the delicate balance of galactic politics. Jake felt his jaw tighten. The humans needed those mining rights badly. Earth's colonies were running out of rare metals. Without them, millions of people would suffer. But the aliens did not care about human problems. Amy Foster sat next to Jake. She was his aide and had worked with him for 3 years. Amy was young but smart. She understood alien politics better than most diplomats. Right now her hands were shaking with anger. "Sir," Amy whispered, "they're not even listening to our arguments." Jake nodded. The aliens had made up their minds before the meeting started. This was just a show. They wanted to make humans feel small and powerless. Captain Ryan Blake stood near the wall with the other human guards. Ryan had served in the Colonial Defense Force for 15 years. He was a good soldier and an even better judge of character. Jake could see Ryan's hand moving toward his weapon. The captain was getting ready for trouble. Chairman Morgan floated above the council floor. The Ethereals were an ancient race that looked like glowing clouds of gas. They could take solid form when they wanted to. Morgan had lived for over 2,000 years. He thought this made him wise. Jake thought it just made him arrogant. "We will now vote on the human request," Mordan announced. His voice sounded like wind through leaves. Jake already knew how this would end. In 12 years, the humans had never won a single important vote. The aliens always voted together against them. It did not matter if the human request was fair or reasonable. The vote started. Each alien species had representatives who could vote. There were over 800 voting members in the council. The humans only had 1 vote. The Valkyrian Empire. "Votes no," Zethka announced with pleasure. "The Ethereal Collective votes no," said another counselor. "The Zephyrian Alliance votes no. The Corvin Guild votes no." The votes continued. Jake stopped counting after the first 100. Every single alien species voted against the humans. When it was over, the final count was 847. Votes against. Only 1 vote in favor. The human vote. "Perhaps in another century," Mordan said, without even looking at Jake. "When your species has matured sufficiently, we shall revisit this matter." Alien laughter filled the chamber. Jake heard clicking sounds from the insect-like Montari. The Valkyrians made hissing noises that passed for laughter. Even the usually quiet Zephyrians were making musical sounds of amusement. Amy's face turned red with rage. "Another century?" she whispered. "People are going to die waiting for their answer." Captain Blake took a step forward. His hand was now resting on his sidearm. Jake caught Ryan's eye and shook his head slightly. Starting a fight here would only make things worse. Jake stood up slowly. Every alien eye in the room turned to look at him. He had something to say, but he knew they would not listen. They never listened. "The human colonies need these resources now," Jake said in a clear voice. Not in 100 years. People will suffer because of this decision. Zefka made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. Humans always think their problems are urgent. You must learn patience. It is a virtue of civilized species. More laughter echoed through the chamber. Jake felt something break inside him. 12 years of insults. 12 years of being treated like dirt. 12 years of watching his people suffer while aliens played their political games. This council session is ended, Mordan announced. The floating chairman began to drift away without another word. The aliens started leaving the chamber in groups. They were talking and laughing among themselves. Some were making jokes about humans. Jake could hear enough of their languages to understand the insults. Amy, Ryan, and the other humans gathered around Jake. They all had the same look on their faces. They were tired of this treatment. They were ready for something to change. Sir, Amy said quietly, we cannot keep doing this. They will never respect us. They will never treat us fairly. Ryan nodded. My people are ready for orders, sir. Whatever you decide? Jake looked around the empty chamber one last time. He thought about all the human colonies depending on Earth. For help, he thought about the miners who needed work and the families who needed food. He thought about the aliens who had just laughed at human suffering. That night, Jake sat in his private office on Nexus Station. He opened his secure communication device and began typing a message to Earth. His fingers moved slowly across the keys as he chose his words carefully. President Carter, he typed, I recommend immediate implementation of Protocol 7. Our position here has become untenable. The aliens will never accept us as equals. It is time to show them what they are about to lose. Jake sent the message and sat back in his chair. Protocol 7 was a plan that had been prepared years ago. A plan that nobody thought would ever be used. A plan that would change everything. He looked out his window at the stars and smiled for the first time in months. President Lisa Carter read Jake's message 3 times before she understood what he was asking. Protocol 7 had been created as a last resort. It was never meant to actually be used. But Jake was right. The humans had tried everything else. Lisa picked up her secure phone and called General Peter Hayes. Peter commanded all human military forces outside of Earth's solar system. He was a practical man who did not waste time with politics. Peter, Lisa said, I need you to activate Protocol 7 immediately. There was silence on the other end of the line. Peter had helped create Protocol 7 5 years ago. He knew what it meant. Madam President, Peter said slowly, are you sure about this? Once we start, there is no going back. I am sure, Lisa replied. Jake says our position is hopeless. I trust his judgment. Understood. I will begin operations within the hour. Lisa's next call was to Admiral Kate Sullivan. Kate commanded the human space fleet. She was tough and smart. More importantly, she knew how to keep secrets. Kate, Lisa said, we are implementing Protocol 7. I need every human ship out of alien space within 48 hours. Every ship? Kate asked. That includes our trade vessels and research ships. It includes diplomatic transports and supply runs. Everything? Everything, Lisa confirmed. Not a single human should remain in Galactic Council territory. Kate was quiet for a moment. This is going to cause problems, Madam President. We have contracts. We have obligations. Break them, Lisa said firmly. From now on, humanity looks after itself. The order went out through secret channels. Human commanders across the galaxy received coded messages. The message was simple. Come home now. Bring everything. Leave nothing behind. Dr. Alex Morrison got the message while he was working in his laboratory on the planet Kepler 7. Alex had spent 15 years studying alien diseases. His research had saved millions of lives across dozens of species. But now he had to destroy it all. Alex looked at his assistant, Dr. Nina Walsh. Nina had worked with him for 8 years. She was like a daughter to him. He hated what he had to tell her. "Nina," Alex said sadly, "we have to leave. We have to destroy everything." Nina stared at him in shock. "Destroy 15 years of work?" "Alex, this research could help billions of people." "Not our people," Alex replied. "The aliens made their choice. They want to treat us like children. Let them solve their own problems." Alex began deleting files from his computer. Nina watched in horror as years of medical research disappeared forever. The cure for Angorian plague, the treatment for Zephyrian bone disease, the vaccine for Corvin, flu, all of it was gone. Across the galaxy, other humans were doing the same thing. Captain Ben Parker was pulling his trading ships out of alien ports. Ben had built a successful business over 20 years. He had contracts worth billions of credits, but he followed his orders without question. "But Captain," his alien business partner pleaded, "we have a deal. You cannot just leave." Ben looked at the confused alien trader. "The deal is off. Find someone else to haul your cargo." On Nexus Station, Ambassador Jake Martinez was overseeing the evacuation of the human diplomatic mission. Every piece of human technology was being removed or destroyed. Every database was being wiped clean. Every document was being burned. Amy Foster was packing the last of the embassy files. "Sir," she said, "the aliens are starting to ask questions. They want to know why we are leaving." Jake smiled grimly. "Tell them we are going home for a vacation. Tell them anything except the truth." Captain Ryan Blake was coordinating the security for the evacuation. His soldiers were working around the clock to move equipment and personnel. Ryan made sure that nothing valuable was left behind. "Sir," one of his sergeants reported, "the Valkyrians are getting suspicious. They want to inspect our cargo." "Tell them no," Ryan replied. "We have diplomatic immunity. They cannot search our ships." The exodus continued for 2 days. Human ships arrived at human facilities and loaded everything they could carry. What they could not carry, they destroyed. The aliens watched in confusion, but did not interfere. They thought it was just another human tantrum. The Corvin merchants were the first to realize something was wrong. They had been trading with humans for decades. They knew humans were reliable partners. When human ships started breaking contracts and leaving without explanation, the Corvins began to worry. Merchant Prince Vixtal tried to contact his human business partners. His calls went unanswered. His messages were ignored. Ships that should have arrived with human goods never appeared. "Something is wrong," Vextal told his advisors. "Humans do not behave this way. They honor their agreements." But most aliens did not notice the human departure. The Valkyrians assumed humans were being emotional and dramatic. The Ethereals thought human behavior was amusing. The Zephyrians did not care about human politics. On the 3rd day, Jake Martinez walked through the empty human embassy one last time. The rooms that had once been full of activity were now bare and silent. 12 years of human diplomatic efforts were ending with empty rooms and destroyed files. Amy Foster joined him for the final inspection. "Sir," she said, "the aliens still do not understand what is happening. They think we are just angry about the vote." "They will understand soon enough," Jake replied. The USS Defiance was the last human ship to leave Nexus Station. Jake stood on the bridge and watched the massive alien space station grow smaller in the distance. He thought about all the meetings he had attended, all the insults he had endured, all the times he had tried to make the aliens understand that humans were not their enemies. "Admiral," Jake said to the ship's captain, "send a message to Nexus Station. Make sure every alien government receives it. What should the message say, sir? Jake thought for a moment. Tell them that humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Tell them not to follow us. The message was sent, and the Defiance jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, Nexus Station continued its slow orbit around empty space. The aliens went about their business, not understanding that everything had just changed. In 48 hours, humans had vanished from Galactic Council space. Every human ship was gone. Every human facility was abandoned. Every human worker had disappeared. The aliens were alone for the first time in decades, but they did not realize it yet. They thought the humans would come back in a few days. They thought this was just politics as usual. They had no idea that they had just lost the most important partners they had ever had. The quiet exodus was complete. Now the real test would begin. 3 months had passed since the humans disappeared. At first, the aliens barely noticed. The Velcarians thought humans were having a tantrum. The Ethereals found the whole situation amusing. The Zephyrians did not care at all. But now things were starting to go wrong. Merchant Prince Vixtal stood in his empty warehouse and tried not to panic. The warehouse should have been full of grain from human colonies. 12 star systems depended on that grain to feed their people. Without it, millions would go hungry. Where are the human ships? Vixtal demanded from his assistant. Unknown, my lord, the assistant replied nervously. We have sent messages to every human colony we know about. None of them respond. Vextal had built his fortune on human agricultural products. Human farmers were the best in the galaxy. They could grow food on planets where other species failed. Now those farmers were gone, and Vextal had no idea how to replace them. Find someone else, Vextal ordered. The Mantari grow food. So do the Zephyrians. His assistant looked uncomfortable. My lord, we tried that. Mantari food is poisonous to half our customers. Zephyrian food costs 10 times more than human food, and the quality is much worse. Vextal realized he was in serious trouble. For 20 years, he had relied on humans for cheap, high-quality food. He had never bothered to develop other suppliers. Why would he? The humans were always there, always reliable, always willing to work for fair prices. Now they were gone, and he did not know what to do. On Nexus Station, Chief Engineer Quinder was having his own problems. The atmospheric processors that provided air for the station were failing. The machines were old and complex. Only one person had really understood how they worked. That person was Steve Rogers, a human technician who had worked on the station for 8 years. Steve had always seemed like a simple mechanic. He fixed things when they broke. He did maintenance work that other species considered beneath them. But now Steve was gone, and the atmospheric processors were dying. We need to fix these machines, Quinder told his team of alien engineers. How hard can it be? Very hard, it turned out. The atmospheric processors used quantum field manipulation to create breathable air from raw materials. The theory was simple. The practice was incredibly complex. Steve had made it look easy. He would walk up to a broken machine, spend a few minutes examining it, and then fix it with simple tools. The alien engineers had assumed Steve was just following basic procedures. They were wrong. Steve had been performing quantum calculations. In his head, he had been adjusting field harmonics by intuition. He had been solving problems that required advanced degrees in theoretical physics. The aliens had no idea how he did it. Sir, one of the engineers reported, we cannot repair these machines. We do not understand how they work. Quinder stared at the failing processors. But they are our machines. We built them. We built them 1,000 years ago, sir. The original designers are long dead. We have been depending on the human technician to maintain them. Quinder felt a cold fear growing in his chest. If the atmospheric processors failed completely, everyone on Nexus Station would die. The problems were spreading across the galaxy. On the planet Andor Prime, a plague was killing thousands of people every day. The disease had appeared 6 months ago, but human doctors had quickly developed a treatment. Dr. Carol Bennett had created a vaccine that stopped the plague in its tracks. The aliens had not thought much about it at the time. They assumed any competent doctor could have done the same thing. Now the vaccine was running out, and no one knew how to make more. The human doctor left no notes, reported the Andorian medical chief. She took all her research with her. The Andorian government had tried to recreate Carol's work. They had the best medical researchers in their empire working on the problem. But the plague was getting worse, and they were no closer to a solution. Carol's vaccine had seemed simple, just a basic protein synthesis procedure. But every attempt to copy it had failed. The aliens were missing something important, but they could not figure out what. Chairman Morden was beginning to understand that something was seriously wrong. Reports were coming in from across Galactic Council space. Trade routes were failing. Medical crises were spreading. Industrial production was dropping. All the problems seemed to trace back to missing humans. How did we become so dependent on them? Morden asked his advisors. We were not dependent, insisted High Counselor Zefka. They were just cheap labor. We can replace them easily. But that was proving to be untrue. The humans had not been just cheap labor. They had been the invisible foundation that kept galactic civilization running. Director Matt Turner had been a human logistics coordinator. His job was to organize shipping routes between star systems. The aliens had thought his work was simple. Record keeping. They were wrong. Matt had been solving mathematical problems that would challenge the greatest alien minds. He had been optimizing trade routes across 17 sectors simultaneously. His calculations had prevented resource shortages and eliminated shipping bottlenecks. Now those calculations were gone, and the galactic economy was falling apart. Dr. Susan Clark had been a human analyst who studied resource allocation. The aliens had ignored her reports because they came from a primitive human. But Susan's mathematical models had been predicting and preventing famines across dozens of worlds. Without her models, food shortages were appearing everywhere. The aliens had no idea where the next crisis would hit. Admiral Kresh of the Hegemony War Fleet was having tactical problems. His ships could not maintain proper battle formations anymore. The coordination software they used had been developed by a human programmer named Danny Lee. Danny had been updating and improving the software for years. The aliens had thought he was just a technician doing routine maintenance. They had not realized that Danny was constantly rewriting the code to handle new tactical situations. Now the software was failing, and the mighty Hegemony fleet was losing battles to minor pirate groups. We need to find the humans, Morden announced to the Galactic Council. We need to bring them back. Impossible, said Zefka. We are the superior species. We do not need primitive humans to help us. But even as Zefka spoke, more reports were coming in. Power grids were failing on industrial worlds. Medical facilities were closing due to equipment failures. Trade ships were getting lost in hyperspace without human navigation experts. The truth was becoming clear. The humans had not been junior partners in galactic civilization. They had been the engineers who made everything work. The aliens had grown comfortable and lazy, relying on human innovation to solve their problems. Now the humans were gone, and the problems were piling up faster than the aliens could handle them. Morden made a decision that would have been unthinkable. 4 months ago, he authorized the first formal search for human colonies. The Great Galactic Council was going to ask the primitive humans for help. The question was whether the humans would be willing to listen. 6 months after the humans vanished, the Galactic Council was in chaos. What had started as small problems had grown into a full crisis. Entire star systems were declaring independence from the Council, the great alliance that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years was falling apart. The Corvin Guild was the first to leave. Merchant Prince Vextal had lost billions of credits when human trade stopped. His warehouses were empty. His customers were angry. His business empire was collapsing. "The Council cannot protect our interests," Vextal announced to his fellow merchants. "We must find the humans ourselves." 17 smaller species followed the Corvins out of the Council. These were practical people who depended on trade to survive. They had no patience for alien politics when their people were starving. Chairman Morden watched his empire shrink day by day. The great ethereal collective had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. Now they were losing members faster than they could count them. "We must locate the human colonies," Mordon told his security chief. "Use whatever resources necessary." Council Security Chief Talvin was a Montari warrior. His people were excellent hunters and trackers. But finding humans in the vastness of space was proving impossible. "Sir," Talvan reported, "we have searched every system where humans were known to have colonies. They are all empty." "Empty? What do you mean empty?" "The colonies are gone, sir. Not destroyed, not abandoned, gone, as if they were never there." Talvan's scout fleets had found something incredible. Human colonies that had existed for decades had simply vanished. Buildings were gone. Roads were gone. Even the landing pads were missing. Only empty planets remained. Captain Version commanded one of the scout fleets. He was a careful investigator who had solved many mysteries. But the disappearing human colonies made no sense to him. There should be some trace, Version told his crew. Buildings leave foundations. Roads leave scars in the ground. People leave garbage and waste. But the human colony sites showed none of these things. The planets looked like no one had ever lived on them. It was as if the humans had erased every sign of their presence. The only clue was the automated message buoys that orbited some of the empty worlds. Each buoy broadcast the same message: "Humanity is no longer available for consultation. Do not attempt to follow." The message was polite but firm. It offered no explanation and no hope of contact. Back on Nexus Station, the situation was getting desperate. The atmospheric processors were failing faster every day. Chief Engineer Quinder and his team were working around the clock, but they could not stop the decline. "Sir," one of his engineers reported, "we have maybe 2 weeks before the air becomes unbreathable." Quinder had tried everything. He had brought in experts from across the galaxy. He had offered huge rewards for a solution. But no one understood how Steve Rogers had kept the old machines running. "Contact the human embassy," Quinder ordered. Maybe they left some technical manuals, but the human embassy was empty. Jake Martinez and his staff had taken everything with them. The rooms that had once been full of activity now contained only dust and silence. The medical crisis on Andor Prime was getting worse. Thousands of people were dying every day from the plague. The Andorian government had tried to recreate Dr. Carol Bennett's vaccine, but every attempt had failed. "We need the human doctor," the Andorian medical chief told his government. "She is the only one who knows how to stop this disease." The Andorian government tried to contact Earth directly. They sent messages offering huge payments for medical help. The messages went unanswered. They tried to contact human medical schools and research facilities. Those messages were also ignored. Finally, they sent a desperate plea to anyone who might be listening. "People are dying. Please help us." The only response was silence. Industrial worlds across the galaxy were shutting down. Factories that had operated for centuries were breaking down without human maintenance workers. The aliens had not realized how much they depended on human technical skills. Engineer Tom Baker had worked at a chemical processing plant on the planet Helix 4. The aliens had thought his job was simple routine maintenance. They had not understood that Tom was constantly preventing disasters. Now, without Tom's knowledge, the plant was producing defective chemicals. Some batches were toxic. Others were completely useless. The aliens could not figure out what was going wrong. A human made it look so easy, the plant manager complained. He just checked a few gauges and adjusted some settings. But Tom had been doing much more than checking gauges. He had been monitoring dozens of chemical reactions simultaneously. He had been calculating optimal temperatures and pressures in his head. He had been preventing explosions and chemical leaks through pure intuition. Without Tom, the plant was a disaster waiting to happen. The great ethereal archives were also failing. For millions of years, the ethereals had preserved the history and knowledge of the galaxy. But their data storage systems were incredibly complex. Dr. Rachel Green had been the human librarian who maintained the archives. The aliens had thought she was just filing documents and organizing data. They had not realized that Rachel was constantly repairing and optimizing their ancient computer systems. The archives are corrupting, reported the chief archivist. We are losing thousands of years of history every day. Rachel's preservation algorithms had been keeping the old systems running smoothly. Without her constant attention, the data was deteriorating rapidly. Chairman Mordoon realized that the situation had become desperate. The Galactic Council was dying. Member species were leaving. Critical systems were failing. And the humans who could fix everything had vanished without a trace. Mordoon made a decision that would have been unthinkable a year ago. He authorized a formal apology to humanity. The proud ethereal collective was going to beg for help. Prepare a message, Mordoon told his communications staff. Address it to the human government. Offer them full membership in the council. Offer them mining rights to any system they want. Offer them anything they ask for. The message was broadcast across the galaxy on every frequency. It was translated into human languages and sent to every star system where humans might be hiding. The Galactic Council formally apologizes to humanity, the message began. We recognize that we have made serious errors in judgment. We invite humanity to return as full partners in galactic civilization. The response came 3 days later. It was broadcast from an unknown location by a human voice that many aliens recognized. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Human Defense Fleet. The voice said calmly, "The Galactic Council had its chance for 12 years. You chose to treat us as children. Children eventually grow up and leave home." There was a pause before the voice continued. "Find your own solutions to your problems. Humanity is no longer available to clean up your mistakes." The transmission ended with a simple statement that sent chills through every alien who heard it. Do not attempt to locate human territories. Any ships that enter human space without permission will be destroyed. This is your only warning. The message was clear. The humans were not coming back. They had moved beyond the reach of the Galactic Council, and they were prepared to defend themselves if necessary. Mordoon realized that his ancient civilization had made the worst mistake in its long history. They had driven away the one species that had been keeping their empire running. Now they would have to learn to survive without them. 2 years had passed since humanity disappeared from Galactic Council space. The galaxy had changed completely. The great alliance that had ruled for thousands of years was gone. In its place, dozens of smaller governments struggled to maintain basic services. President Lisa Carter stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station. The massive space fortress was hidden in a nebula far from any known star system. Through the reinforced windows, she could see the lights of human ships moving through space. Status report, Lisa said to General Peter Hayes. Peter smiled as he handed her a data tablet. All human colonies are secure and thriving, Madam President. Our population has grown by 15%. Industrial production is up 40%. And we have not lost a single person to alien violence. Lisa nodded with satisfaction. The hidden human empire was stronger than ever. While the aliens struggled with their failing systems, humanity had built something better. The key had been preparation. For 5 years before the Exodus, human engineers had been secretly building new colonies in unexplored regions of space. They had used advanced stealth technology to hide their settlements from alien sensors. When the time came to leave, the humans had not just vanished. They had relocated to a completely separate part of the galaxy. What about our former trading partners? Lisa asked. The Corvins are still trying to contact us, Peter reported. They have been sending messages for months. They are offering huge payments for resumed trade relations. Lisa had read some of those messages. Merchant Prince Vextal sounded desperate. His business empire had collapsed without human agricultural products. He was begging for a single shipment of grain to feed his starving customers. And the others? The Zephyrians are offering to share their advanced technology in exchange for human medical assistance. The Montari want our help with industrial production. Even the Velcarians have been sending diplomatic messages. Lisa found that last part particularly amusing. High Counselor Zethka, who had spent years insulting humans, was now offering formal treaties and alliances. Captain Ryan Blake, now Admiral of the Human Defense Fleet, joined them on the observation deck. Ryan had been busy for the past 2 years. His hidden fleet had grown into the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Admiral, Lisa said, how are our new ships performing? Ryan's smile was fierce. Better than we ever hoped, Madam President. Our engineers have been studying captured alien technology for 20 years. Now we have ships that combine the best of human and alien design. The human fleet was indeed impressive. While the aliens had grown lazy and dependent, human engineers had been working in secret. They had reverse-engineered alien faster-than-light drives and improved them. They had studied alien weapons and built better versions. Most importantly, they had maintained the human talent for innovation. While alien technology had stagnated for centuries, human technology continued to advance. Any signs that the aliens have located our territories? Lisa asked. None, Ryan replied confidently. Our stealth technology is beyond their ability to detect. As far as they know, humanity has vanished completely. This was true. The aliens had been searching for human colonies for 2 years without success. They had no idea the humans had built an entire civilization in the unexplored regions of space. Dr. Alex Morrison was also thriving in the new human empire. The research he had been forced to destroy on Kepler-7 had been recreated and improved. Without alien interference, human medical science was advancing rapidly. We have solved most of the diseases that were plaguing alien worlds, Alex reported to Lisa during their weekly meeting. Our new medical techniques are decades ahead of anything the aliens have. Dr. Nina Walsh, Alex's assistant, had become one of the leading researchers in the human medical program. The irony is incredible, Nina said. The aliens called our medicine primitive. Now they are dying from diseases we could easily cure. The reports from alien space were not encouraging. The Andorian plague had spread to 6 more worlds. Thousands were dying every day. The aliens had no idea how to stop it. Meanwhile, human colonies had eliminated similar diseases completely. Dr. Carroll Bennett's original vaccine had been improved and perfected. No human had died from the plague in over a year. The economic situation in alien space was even worse. Without human traders and logistics experts, the galactic economy had collapsed. Trade routes that had operated for centuries were now abandoned. Director Matt Turner, the logistics coordinator who had once optimized alien trade routes, was now designing the human colonial economy. His work was more efficient than anything the aliens had ever achieved. "We are completely self-sufficient," Matt reported. "Our colonies produce everything we need. We have no dependence on alien resources or technology." This was a remarkable achievement. In just 2 years, humanity had built an independent civilization that was more advanced and efficient than the galactic alliance they had left behind. The psychological impact on the aliens was devastating. Species that had considered themselves superior to humans were now begging for human help. The proud ethereal collective was facing the collapse of their ancient empire. Chairman Mordon had tried everything to contact humanity. He had sent diplomatic missions to empty space. He had offered tribute and alliance to anyone who claimed to represent humans. He had even tried to surrender his own authority to human leadership. All of his efforts had been ignored. The most dramatic change was happening among the former Galactic Council members. Many species were abandoning their old governments and forming new alliances based on practical needs rather than ancient traditions. The Corvin Guild had formed a trading confederation with 17 other species. They were using organizational principles that human economists had developed. Without realizing it, they were copying human methods of government and commerce. Other groups were doing the same thing. The new galactic governments were all based on human ideas about efficiency, fairness, and practical problem-solving. President Carter found this development fascinating. "They are learning from us, even though we are not there to teach them," she observed. General Hayes nodded. "Our ideas have spread throughout their civilizations. They are becoming more human-like in their thinking." This was perhaps the greatest victory of all. Humanity had not just survived their exile from galactic civilization. They had changed. The way other species thought about government, economics, and social organization. The final irony came when the Galactic Council officially dissolved. After 3,000 years of rule, the Great Alliance simply fell apart. Its member species scattered to form smaller, more practical governments. In the official dissolution document, Chairman Mordon wrote, "The Council failed because it could not adapt to changing circumstances. We became dependent on others to solve our problems instead of developing our own capabilities." Lisa Carter read that document with quiet satisfaction. The aliens had finally learned the lesson that humans had been trying to teach them for 12 years. "Are we ready to make contact again?" General Hayes asked during their latest strategy meeting. Lisa considered the question carefully. The aliens had certainly suffered enough. They had learned humility. They had abandoned their arrogant attitudes toward humanity. But Lisa was not. Sure, they had suffered long enough. Not yet, she decided. Let them struggle for a few more years. Let them truly understand what they lost when they drove us away. Admiral Blake agreed. They need to appreciate what we brought to their civilization. They need to understand that we were never their inferiors. Dr. Morrison had a different perspective. Some of them are dying from diseases we could easily cure. Do we not have a moral obligation to help? They made their choice, Lisa replied firmly. They chose to treat us as children. Children eventually grow up and leave home. Maybe in another generation, they will be ready to treat us as equals. The human empire continued to grow and prosper in its hidden territories. New colonies were being established every month. The population was increasing rapidly. Technology was advancing at an incredible pace. Meanwhile, the former Galactic Council territories struggled with problems that humans had once solved easily. The great alien civilizations were learning to be humble. Someday, perhaps in another decade or two, humanity might return to the galaxy. But they would return as equals, not as junior partners. They would return as the advanced civilization they had always been not as the primitive species the aliens had imagined. The galaxy had changed forever, and humanity was responsible for that change. Even from their self-imposed exile, the lesson was clear. Respect must be earned, not demanded. And those who fail to show respect may find themselves alone in the dark.